Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Game number 143 on the 15th of January 2020. Still seems weird to say it. My name's Hamish. I'm the content lead here at Massive. Not in-game content, because that would be weird, but this kind of stuff. And today we're going to jump in really quickly, soon, with Frederick and Drew on some... I think you said bringing the thunder?
On nerdy details.
Very explicit.
Hence why you have a laptop in front of you.
Yep.
It's a... We're trying to make PowerPoints really exciting, but it is really exciting.
We're literally going to show PowerPoint.
Yeah. I mean, why not, right?
It's going to be a good one.
It's going to be the sickest PowerPoint you've ever seen. Get ready for it. But before we get into the developer interview section of this show, we're going to hit you with some priority alerts. Let's do that now. Okay, so here's what you need to know about what's happening in the game right now. And as of yesterday, scheduled maintenance was performed yesterday as usual. The invisible walls that we've been talking about before, the improvements that were planned to be in TU 6.2, they won't be ready and they need some further work. So we're currently looking at TU 7, so episode 3 for that. And that's coming next month, like we said last week. Stuck NPCs we talked about as well. We've found the cause of that issue, and that will be coming on that same update as well, I think. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
And becoming stuck in the UI and being unable to respawn when downed in the dark zone will be fixed with that same update. So we do understand all of those things, and we will fix them in the update that's coming out very soon.
Which we've said when it's coming.
We've said next month.
Next month.
Next month.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And we're already halfway through this month, so not far away. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on to the juicy portion of the show. So let's get straight into the developer interview. I want to get there nice and fast. All right, dev interview time.
Not messing around.
I'm not messing around, man.
Definitely not.
It's good.
This is how excited I am. For the people,
I am ridiculously excited to start talking about this.
Exactly. So for the people who don't know who you are and what you do, would you just mind introducing yourselves quickly?
Let's go in order of handsomeness. You first.
I'm Drew. So I'm the associate game director on Division 2. I was, of course, as you might know me as a lead AI designer, Drew, as well. I was doing that formerly.
Moving up. There we go. Well, my name is Frederick. I'm in charge of guns and gear and the RPG bits of the game and the controls.
Small things.
It's a big part of the game, though.
The gameplay, we like to call it.
Some might say that is the game.
Yeah.
Well, to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, and then I have a team working with me as well, so.
All right, cool.
Not doing it alone.
So I want to kick things off by talking about the big elephant in the room. We've called it, it has a lot of names. People have said RPG 2.0, gear revamp, all sorts of things. What can you tell us is the main ethos of what you've been working on for the next big update?
Well, we have almost a year of feedback, ideas, our own knowledge playing the game, and some things you can't get into the game incrementally. So we needed to make a big, pull up by the bootstraps kind of reboot of the gear game. And that is what we're starting to talk about today.
All right. Just to clarify, this isn't, again, we talked about episode 3 coming next month.
No, this
is tied to the update that's coming after that.
Yeah.
And we'll have dates for that soon. But
yes.
just to be clear. All right.
But I think it's also important to talk about how we got here and why we're talking about these things, right?
All right.
One of the, and we've actually mentioned this previously, but one of the kind of major frustrations that players can kind of reach in endgame, right, is the feeling that there's just too much RNG to contend with, right? And that causes a lot of problems and a lot of stress on our loot system, and you get lots of times where you're like, I'm just not getting satisfying loot, you're not getting excited about loot anymore, which puts a lot of stress on your inventory system as well, because all of a sudden you have
hundreds of things to manage.
You're pretty much maxed out, and you spend a lot of time in the inventory screen and not enough time playing the game. So that is, I think, one of the kind of core issues that we're trying to address. And now, this is actually a kind of a three-pronged approach, I will say. We're going to be talking about only aspect 1.
Which is the actual gear.
Yes. the other two aspects, which is the recalibration stat storing
Yeah.
and the skill power refactorization,
Yeah.
that's going to come next week.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, and there's going to be things that we won't have time to cover today, but
Sure.
this will give people an insight into what we're thinking. So so I see questions where they're like, oh, new gear overhaul or whatever. We're gonna give you some context of that as well, because we know that that's not like popular. You have your good builds, you have stuff going on. So
Sure.
I'm gonna give you some context for that as well, which is, and we'll get to that when I show the screen as well, but we might as well go through it.
Yeah.
Which is, this won't come on its own. This will come at a time when we have new things to get, new things to play, so you're not farming the same old things, and when there's a new power cap,
Okay.
so that you can grow while getting all of that.
Yeah.
So this is not just refarming to get to the status quo.
That's
We
right.
wouldn't do that. It's all going to come as a big package, right?
Yeah.
So
I
that's
get
that's the premise for what we're going to
Yeah.
talk about today.
and the details about exactly what that looks like, obviously we can't talk about today, but we can talk about this aspect,
This
right?
aspect.
All right. Should we kick
Yeah,
it off
let's,
with some PowerPoint?
Let's get over to
let's
the stuff we're showing.
Okay, cool. Thanks for putting together a presentation today.
That's fine.
I'm excited. All right.
All right, so new gear game. So some of the problems we just talked about is it feels too rare to get usable things. You want to get upgrades at a reasonable pace.
yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
hard to understand, and that goes for multiple things. Like, you have to have an Excel sheet or a web page to know which masks roll what, where certain talents are available, what the max rolls are, all of that stuff. And that's stuff that should be understandable in-game.
I think like a lot of people, I found myself in the situation a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I'll just deconstruct it.
Yeah.
It might be great,
It's hard
but like
to
I can't be
compare.
bothered.
No, totally.
Yeah.
It's hard to make decisions, so that
Yeah.
gets to the next point, which is you just keep a lot of stuff because like, this might be useful later for something.
That's right.
And for talents, it's like, oh yeah, that seems good, but I need this many other pieces to unlock it, so I might get to use my new drop in 2 weeks, you know?
The amount of kind of mental processing
Yeah.
it takes, right, can sometimes be a daunting task.
Yeah.
Right.
And it takes away from the actual satisfaction of getting gear and immediately recognizing, hey, this is a good piece of gear. So that goes to the next point, which is you don't get the rush when you see a god roll because it can even be hard to understand what a god roll is because
That's right.
Yeah.
with a budget system, one thing rolls high, another rolls low,
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Well, we're showing that off
Yeah.
pretty soon.
And then the last point that kind of piggybacks on all of this, because this is all to do with RNG and stuff, but we also feel like, and anybody who's played a lot in the DZ will testify, but even, if you're true to yourself and look at your build in PvE, you'll recognize this. You're getting too much of everything. Like you can go really tanky and still have pretty high damage output, or have pretty high skill power, etc. Right? Like you can reach 3K skill power and still have really high armor, and etc. And there's no real interesting trade-offs where you feel like you're a niche, right?
Sure.
I think it's also, and you have it up there, like
Yeah.
hard to understand. I think that those two are very well
They
connected.
go together, yeah.
Right? Like the kind of idea that you want to kind of follow your intuition to create a build, it can sometimes be
Yep.
difficult at the
Right.
moment.
So, again, just to reiterate, when we do this, all gear will be rebooted, but we will only do this at a time when there will be new items to get, there will be new things to play, there will be a new power cap to climb to, and all your existing gear will be converted to the new system, so it's not wasted. Details of how that conversion will work, we'll get to at some other time.
Cool.
I think we should just dive into the
I think
nitty
we
gritty.
should. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions around the gear rebooting and stuff. We'll get to those at the
We'll
end.
get to it.
Totally.
But let's go.
But let's give it a go. Like this is what we're talking about. This is what new gear would look like, right? So let's. I always want to say this. Enhance. Right. So our goals, right? You can talk to our goals of what we're trying to accomplish
Yeah.
as well. So we're trying to make it intuitive, like you should be able to look at things and understand them and not have to alt-tab if you're on PC to a website to know. We want it to still be deep. We still want like synergies and builds to be a real thing that takes some thought.
And that is super critical, right? I think the natural inclination when we talk about intuition, following your intuition, is people think, oh, we're going to be removing depth. Not the case at all. We just want that depth to be incredibly intuitive.
Right. Easy to understand doesn't mean it's easy to do or easy to perfect. And that's the difference, right? And then satisfying, like we said, seeing what an upgrade is knowing how to progress, feeling the big impact of your build when you slot new pieces in.
Do we also need to give a disclaimer that the data on this specific item is from a dev build and probably
everything
maybe
is
not?
work in progress.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
Everything we see today is work in progress.
Well, Solid's already in chat being like, crazy. Just
So, okay, the first things first is we get rid of the budget system. So, like all the bars you see, every stat can roll max at the same time. Like one won't affect the other. Like you can just like look for everything being maxed out.
God rolls are back.
Yeah.
We've also taken a look at which stats are in there. You can see some new as we're going along, but we won't dwell on them too much. But that means it's easy to understand. You can see what's on there and that everything could roll at max. So that makes it satisfying as well.
Can we also quickly just contrast it with where we're at now with the budget system?
Right. If you look at this picture, in this case, because weapon damage was high, that's why the others would have been low.
Yeah.
And then they could never be high at the same time. Like nothing could be, because it worked on a system where it's like, okay, if something rolled really high, the others were reduced so that all gear was balanced with each other.
Yeah.
But that's, we're getting away from that. So let's just keep going. So first of all, going from top to bottom, we've looked over all of the brands, make sure that more fit with the real play styles that we see, that they're more fun combinations because you can combine brands, 1 + 1 + 1, 6 different brands or 3 + 3 or, all the different combos.
Yeah.
And we kind of made sure we looked specifically at the kind of low popularity brands, make sure everything is more useful than before, right?
Yeah.
We've added a thing called core attributes, which is similar to what we had in Division 1, but much more straightforward.
Yeah.
And so you either, in your core attribute, get weapon damage, a skill tier, which is the new way we're scaling skills, which is a new skill power, or armor. And that's the only place you can get those stats. So you're choosing between weapon damage, skill power, or skill tier, and armor.
Yeah.
You're making a real choice.
Which some people might be like, hey, what the hell is skill tiers? We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
That's one of the topics for next week.
Yeah.
That is a good question I see from Phantom Mix. No health on as a defensive stat?
Health is an attribute that comes in the bonus rolls. You can still get defensive attributes, and health is one of those.
But not as a core attribute.
That's right.
Gotcha.
There's not a defensive attribute on this particular piece, but if there
We'll
was,
show some
health
as
could
well.
be one
Yeah.
of those.
Great.
Yeah.
All of the things you see can be recalibrated. We'll talk about recalibration next week, but one of the things is recalibration is much less obtuse. Like you're not overcharging stats and losing out if you're recaling the wrong thing anymore.
Great.
I think that's a really important point. It can be fully recalibrated.
Yep.
Right?
Anything that you feel like.
Anything that you see on there that you want to recalibrate, you can recalibrate.
Well, hey, hold up. So, like, if you recalibrate one thing,
Yep.
does that lock you up from recalibrating other things?
We're still staying at recalibrating
Yes.
one thing because we still want mostly you to get a good piece out there.
Great.
That's right.
Okay, just checking.
Absolutely. A lot more details on recalibration
Great.
and how it works.
Yeah, we'll get into that next week,
later.
and we'll
Yep.
we'll bring some fancy show and tell then. Too.
Yeah.
So obviously, people have already seen the bars. The bars kind of show how good a roll is, like how close it is to being max rolled. It's as simple as that, and that's max rolled no matter which piece. Like if the bar is max, that's as high as it can get on any piece. You know that. Like in this case, like, okay, 12.8% weapon damage on this particular level. That's as high as weapon damage goes for this particular level. And you don't have to worry about, could it have been higher on a different, piece or brand? No. Like, if it's maxed, it's maxed. That's a god roll.
Great.
Also, there's a place in game, actually, in the recal bench, where you can see the actual value of a god roll. Even
right.
before you've ever seen it. You can
That's
see, skill damage rolls this high.
Yeah. So you know exactly what the maximum possible roll is for everything.
Cool. I do see some comments. People say already spotting that composure is being moved to the chest.
Yeah, we'll talk about talents. We'll get to it.
Talents have bigger changes than that, and we'll get to that in a second.
But let's get to that. It's a good segue. So we're approaching talents differently. We want talents to be build defining. You kind of start with your talents, and we want them to be impactful. So we've moved to a place where they always amplify all your stats. Looking at composure, it says it increases total weapon damage. So it multiplies weapon damage, including all the red stats you just saw, by 10%. So it amplifies your build. Like whatever stats you picked on your gear, this talent will amplify it. So it becomes really crucial which stats and talents you're rolling.
Yeah.
Which means we can move away from having requirements because the synergy is there anyway, right? Because you'll get more powerful if you're wearing red stats and you have this talent.
That's right.
Does this also apply to guns as well? The same kind of ethos and the same kind of thinking?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
But we also wanted them to be much more impactful. So and for your build to be much less of a spaghetti fest of different things interacting and trying to juggle so many things. So there's in total fewer but bigger talents on your build than before. Yeah. So you kind of can find combinations of talents, say, okay, these are the two talents, chest and backpack, that I'm going to build my build around and then work out from there.
Okay, because we hadn't said that yet.
No.
That,
we're going to show a whole build
great.
later.
So yeah, exactly.
You can just mention that backpack and chest, that's where talents are.
Yeah.
We've taken a look at every talent in the game.
Right.
Revamped, rebalanced, made new, moved around, everything.
Great. So less talents available on, less pieces of gear will have talents available, but those talents will be more role defining and more powerful.
A lot more impactful, but also you don't have to worry about combining like 6 different talent requirements into a build, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So here's some examples. And we're going to stay on this page for a while because people will probably want to look at it. I don't know if it's large enough to
Can we
read.
Bring that up. Cool. So what are we looking at? We're on the...
So I just brought up a few in development items that exemplify some different good items. None of them are completely god rolled, but you can kind of see on the crit hit damage in the middle there that it has kind of an orange background. That means it's god rolled. Like anything that's god rolled just lights up in
just
orange.
ding.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
all of these items, by the way, are they're pretty good items, right?
Yeah.
They're not perfect items by any means, but they're pretty good. You can see that most of their bars are pretty well filled. Right?
This is a kind of 80% power level, so to speak, of what is available. But you can see also that some of the things that we're going for, if you look at the actual talents, you're starting to see group synergies and roles. Seeing leadership, where you're bringing bonus armor to your friends because you're the tank. And you're not the tank because everybody's shooting at you purely. You're the tank because you're making sure other people aren't getting damaged by incorporating bonus armor to others into your build.
I like that.
Or the yellow piece over to the right, you can see buffing people by healing them, giving them weapon damage by healing them.
Yeah, that's right. So I've noticed a few people pointing out the skill tier. We're going to talk about it next week. We are changing the way that skill power works, refactoring it in a pretty big and meaningful way. But we'll give the details next week.
And we kind of a little cheekily left that in there to give some little hints for next week as
Something
well.
to talk about.
Yeah.
So the thing we haven't really talked about it, but just at a readability level, like if I'm not interested in skill power stuff, I just know that I don't have to look at yellow things.
Yep.
Like
That's right.
that's really cool.
That's right.
Like it's less of that sitting in my inventory, having to like go back to my Excel sheet and be like, is this like I like the readability as well.
Right.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So you can also see that there are mod slots here on these particular builds. There won't be as many mod slots before, and mods will only roll one stat, but you'll see that stat roll just like these with a nice bar to see how well rolled it is, which is another way of saying you don't have to keep, 500 different combinations of rolls on mods around in your inventory.
That's
Like
right.
you know how many crit chance mods you have to keep around, etc.
That's
and
right.
It makes inventory management
it's
much
really
easier.
reducing those RNG layers like
Absolutely.
we talked about before, right?
Someone's picking up on a grammatical inconsistency, possibly repairing an ally or healing an ally.
Yeah,
Do we
so
need to?
it is something we struggle with internally
Yeah.
because we know people recognize what a heal is in a
Yeah.
video game,
Yeah.
but technically
You're
you're
not healing.
fixing their armor, not their health.
exactly.
You're not
So
healing their armor.
some
Exactly.
inconsistencies have snuck into this
Yeah.
work in progress
It
text.
is a dev build. Like you might notice,
Yeah.
there's a missing icon, right? Like there's some placeholder text. So, but good eyes.
But someone's asking if it's all group only build gear, like because we're only showing that here.
Right.
Definitely not.
We saw composure before. That's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we're gonna think.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah, I'm thinking of the same one.
We're going to look at the next slide, which is a whole build, just to kind of get an idea of what is a whole build in this new system. And that's more of a solo-focused build.
Cool.
Right?
Let's take a look.
Okay, so this is what you would see, right? Already at this point, you'll see it's pretty easy to get an overview of kind of, okay, this is mostly a red build with some defensive pieces. Already there, you have
Some things are highlighted though.
yeah.
Is that?
The little orange pips are
Yeah.
because stuff is God rolled on there.
I knew that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Yeah,
point
you
it
want
out.
to plan.
I don't want to pretend like I didn't know. That's
So let's
that's
go-
cool, though.
You kind of start with saying, okay, what's my core pieces with talents? All right, in this case, you're gonna have a backpack with a talent glass cannon.
It's reckless.
It's basically reckless.
It is basically. Yeah.
Reckless on steroids. So this is a complete DPS monster chest or backpack with weapon damage, weapon handling, crit chance, all of that stuff, and then a big old amplification talent, and that amplifies the weapon damage that you see on the piece as well.
Yeah.
And then you pick a suitable chest armor or chest piece. In this case, something that I think people will also recognize as an effect that used to happen. So you wear those at the same time. In this case, because they know the content they're going through has some environmental damage and stuff, they've also opted into some survivability, like hazard protection in this case. And actually on the gloves, they have chosen not to have weapon damage because they felt they needed some armor to survive the difficulty level they were playing at. But they've made that trade-off because you can't have armor and weapon damage at the same time on the piece.
Cool. I just saw someone coming, Scott's Gaming, just to reiterate, asking, will talents still drop on mask, holster, gloves, and knee
No.
pads? No, they won't.
Chest and backpack.
Yeah.
This is to make sure that they're big, impactful, easy to make some decisions around, but instead we've really gone through them and made sure they work in synergies where there's like nice pairs that go well together that you can then form the rest of your build around. Because don't forget, there's still like your spec, your weapon talents,
That's right.
all of the stats you choose, the skills that synergize with it, and the group play that we're bringing much more to the fore than before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's. We see there's a bunch of questions about like what's going to happen to our gear, what's going to happen to the mods, and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. We are very aware that that's going to be a discussion. We'll finish up with this presentation,
Yeah.
and I'll throw some of those at you.
I just want to summarize the rest of the pieces in this build where they've picked up some more armor and a little bit more HAS protection while still and with a brand that has HAS protection, and wrapping it up with some more survivability / damage combination. So it's a pretty straightforward build. I saw some questions about gear that farmed, and we're going to convert your old gear, and if you have named items, they'll still be named items that are
Yeah.
better than high-end items, so don't worry about that.
Exotics are still around.
Exotics are still around.
Yeah.
We have reworked with this
Yes.
all the exotics, and all the gear sets as well.
So let's say I have a named item that doesn't fit a slot that has talents on it
Yeah.
anymore. Like, I can't think
So
of it
let's
right
say some gloves,
now. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or then you might have a better than even allowed stat roll on it.
Okay.
Where it like rolls higher than what the bar allows on one stats.
Okay.
And that
A
makes it
super god
yeah.
roll.
Okay.
So like in this case, if we imagine these knee pads as named knee pads, maybe they roll 10% crit chance, which nothing else can.
Okay.
And it just has a little indicator that says that that bar is just way beyond what it's allowed to be. So you can still get named items even though they don't have the name stats, right? Or the named talents.
So exotics, they'll still have talents in slots that other gear doesn't?
Yes, so you
Okay.
can still look, you could look at this build and you could go, ooh, I want the BTSU gloves in here. You could still do that.
Yeah.
And that'll still do powerful things. And that's
Yeah.
probably one of the
That'll probably
most,
be the meta. for
yeah,
a
the
while,
most
yeah.
common build pattern
Yeah.
will be this with an exotic piece. But having said that, you know, an exotic backpack, we know you're giving up a talent for that. So an exotic backpack really has a really high output in its talent, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to the BTSU gloves,
Mm-hmm.
will the talent remain as is now, or will the talent be more in
Everything-
line with the new talents?
Everything has been revisited
Okay.
in the exotics to make them fit the new gameplay, right?
Great. Is that the end of the presentation?
We
Or have
could,
got
well, I
anything
mean,
else?
depends. We could talk
Do you want
about,
to talk about gear sets?
you want to show some gear set?
I'd love to, if you got some.
We revisited gear sets as well. Some we've revamped a little more than others, but they've all been revisited. They've all been a little bit more, made more gratifying and powerful. So we kind of tried to keep the essence of them, but make them more directly useful and less convoluted, you might say. They're still a gear set, so they're still wordy, but they will be a little bit more easy to work into builds. Now, with the backpack and chest piece having talents on high ends, you're going to go, oh, I'm just going to wear 4 pieces, then a high-end backpack and a high-end chest piece, right? So to make it so that you can use the ones that come with a gear set, they come with amplification talents that bring up the level of the gear set effect to a much higher output.
Okay.
So it's a real choice, right? Like, am I going to bring the chest piece that has this
Oh, and not by
feedback
just a
loop
little
set?
bit.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But this is to compensate for the fact that you
Yeah.
don't have a chest piece talent like, let's say, glass cannon, right? So definitely going to make you have some hard choices. But you could still do this plus one of these plus like an exotic. So there's still a lot of different combinatorics to go through, right? You can imagine 4 gear sets, an exotic and a high end, all kinds of combinations. There's still depth with all the combinations of stuff, even though each piece isn't as convoluted as before. I would like to say,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. It's a lot.
We need to get to
There's-
questions. No.
Yeah.
Well, I see something that's been coming up a little bit. We already mentioned this at the beginning, but we of course aren't just going to do this without giving you anything new to play, any new challenges,
Yeah.
any power increase, right?
Yeah.
This comes alongside new things.
Yes.
We can't say
Yeah.
exactly what that is yet,
Yeah.
but we will at some point.
Yeah. But it
go
isn't.
into that.
It isn't that update that is coming after episode 3, which is out
That's right.
next month, and next month starts pretty soon. So we'll be continuing to talk about all those things that will be coming in the update after episode 3 in the coming weeks. And next week
Yeah.
it's recal and all sorts of exciting
Yeah.
things. But it is a lot. I get why the community reaction
sure.
can often be, and mine too, like a little bit shook, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
oh shit,
Yeah,
like that's a lot.
But
But it
we're
is a lot.
playing
It's
with
huge.
this internally, and I mean, I'm just gonna be frank. It's hella fun.
Okay.
Like actually going into roles, going into like builds and trade-offs, and thinking about tank versus DPS versus skills properly, being able to instantly see on the ground if something is good compared to what you have. It's all
Yeah.
really gratifying to play.
And I think this works really well with the other recalibration and the skill power changes that we'll be talking about next week as well.
Cool.
So definitely this is only a third of the piece of the puzzle, right? So keep that in mind.
I see LeMayoC saying that the build system is going to be oversimplified, and I'm paraphrasing in a nicer way. How would you kind of address those concerns?
It's like I said, like a piece can be easy to understand. That doesn't mean that all of a build, when you put everything together and have everything synergized, is doesn't have depth and doesn't have a lot of decision making and choices, and that's the gratifying part. I mean, the game should be gratifying because you did a lot of smart things when you put together your build, not that you knew a lot of obscure things that other people didn't have the energy to Google, right?
Yeah.
Like just to be quite frank.
Yeah. And to be honest, like kind of where our game is today, I think is a little bit too much in that kind of obscure knowledge.
Can get a bit academic, like at
It
points.
can be, but to the point where I think it's not, like it all goes back to following your intuition, right? If I want to build a build in Division 2 today, it's not super intuitive how I create the best like sniper build, for example. Is that even a viable build? Like, that's a really difficult thing to kind of figure out today. So the goal is to kind of figure out what kind of build you want to make, follow your intuition, you can make it and have it be viable.
And not hit a roadblock where you're like, I try to make this build, but then it turns out I can't get enough, blues to unlock that one talent or whatever. But basically be able to unravel a thread from one drop and go, I'm going to try to put it all together, and it should work. There should be things. I see a lot of questions about solo. Again, we showed things that have group synergies today because we've heard that that's something that's lacking. Doesn't mean there's no solo kind of talents. There's definitely, run and gun talents. There's talents for people who like, companion skills, like keeping around drones and stuff. There's tanky things, there's survivability things, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to also like kind of restate that like this has been kind of a long time coming.
Yeah.
This has been something that largely has been driven by seeing the feedback from our community, right?
Yeah.
So this is like looking at things like our official forums, Reddit.
We even talked
Twitch. ETF.
We talked to
as
ETF
well, of
back
course.
in, when was ETF here?
Yeah, that was a few months
I was
back.
away.
Yeah, but we've had ETF's help to bounce
Absolutely.
these ideas off of for the last couple of
Absolutely.
months.
And it's also been something that we, as well, like with our own experience playing our game, right? Because we, of course, play our game and keep up with it, have kind of noticed and been discussing for a long time.
Cool. There's a couple of things I wrote down and I wanted to address. With the gear being simplified, so less variables, maybe. Is it fair to say that?
No, less, we like to say less arcane knowledge. It's about the same amount of stats and stuff. There's a little fewer talents, but otherwise it's sort of as rich as now. But
How does that impact loot tables and drop rates, is my question.
that's actually a very solid question. So you want to touch that? How much the
can.
loot frequency? Probably you'd be spammed with less loot.
Yeah,
Right?
Right. So when we look at kind of the loot that we have today, I think probably most of us would agree that you get a lot of loot really quickly, and the majority of it is trash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
I think we can all agree with that.
What we want is slightly less loot, and the vast majority of it is super interesting and good. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, I think everyone can probably get on board with the fact that
Yeah.
they would spend less time managing their inventory, and every time they see a loot drop, they say, hell yeah, that's interesting. I want to pick that up. I really want to understand what's going on there. And so that's, it's a big goal of this.
God, the quality of questions today is high. I got to say,
Really
chat
good.
is on point.
Do you know what I think we should do? We'll collect up as many of those as we can, and we're not going anywhere, but we do have some developer Q&A video questions that we'll do. You can have a break from us, and we can watch the developer Q&A that George put together this week. I think we have it. All right, let's do it. All right, it's coming. Don't worry about
Who
it.
are you and what do you do here?
My name is Bruce Kelly, and I'm a game designer on the RPG team.
So the reason I'm speaking to you today is we've seen a lot of questions regarding named gear, named weapons, and all sorts of named stuff. And will we be seeing a lot more of them in future updates?
Absolutely. With the revisions to the gear game and what I call Gear 2.0, we've had to take a holistic look at all of our gear, and that includes named items and named weapons and gear. And for moving forward, we're going to be almost doubling the existing named weapons and gear, and there's always more to come. We're always adding new named items. When they're going to be available, we'll have to wait and see.
I'm Trick Dempsey. I'm a senior game designer on The Division 2. I generally work in bounties, living world invasions, other upcoming features, but generally end game content loops, basically.
So you're going to be the perfect person to hopefully answer this question, and it's regarding the Nest control point. A lot of players, when they go to try and take control of it, sometimes the allies don't turn up or don't come to help you. So is there a reason behind that?
So it's not necessarily obvious when you play the living world, but it is actually fully simulated. And so in order for an attack to be available for you to call back in with firing your flare, there needs to be a control point or settlement nearby that is neither under attack currently nor is sending out an attack. So if they currently have an attack squad going off one place, they only have one attack squad available. And so until it has either failed or succeeded at its mission, they will not be able to send help for you. And the range is about 1 kilometer, if I remember correctly, but it can vary based on some arcane logic. But essentially, you have to have a control point or a settlement in range, and they have to be available, which, you know, the only times that you encounter the fact that we're in that simulation is when you're like, I need backup. And they're like, no, I'm sorry, you don't get backup today. And so the best way to handle it is really to go doing some cleanup, is look at the nearest control point to you, or look at the nearest settlement and say, is the settlement blockaded? Is the settlement currently or control point currently launching an attack? And can I help that attack out? This can make it pretty tough if you've like just made a control point level 4 and you step in and you're like, oh, there's no backup here. I have a limited amount of time before it drops back down to level 3 to go clear out a different place and then come back. But also, if you babysit your little troops a little bit, you can normally make certain that you've actually got available resources there. The Nest is problematic because it has so few people who can help it, just by the sort of geometry of the map. There are a few other locations, generally inside of the southeast of the map, that can happen to as well. But the Nest is probably the most geographically isolated from like a attack paths standpoint.
Start thinking.
Oh, yeah. We should. I know people showed up for the information, but they definitely stayed for Trick's cleavage. That's
Definitely.
solid. No, I mean, badass.
Trick is awesome.
Trick had a lot to
Rock
say.
one of those. No, there is.
It was
a lot
great.
to say. Fantastic.
I like that Bruce's question. He could have just said, yes.
Yeah,
I'm
he
glad he
there's a lot.
explained.
expanded a little bit.
I'm glad he explained.
There are a bunch of great questions coming in. Will
Yeah.
you can stick around for a few more minutes? We're like way over time, but you know, lots to talk about. So who cares? One of the easy ones to answer: weapon damage, or like your weapon roll. Is that visible?
Yeah, there's going to be a bar, just like what you just saw, so you can see how well your weapon rolled, which is impossible in the game right now.
Right. The big question that a lot of people have is what happens to my current gear? How's it converted? What happens if I log in and all of my stuff's crazy? Because there's going to be a lot of people who don't show up to the stream and they're going to be like, what?
The stuff you farm now will be converted to the new system. Simple as that. Right? There are some stats that won't be exactly the same. There's some talent slots that are going away, some stuff that's getting added. That'll get converted. But it doesn't mean that your current gear is not usable. It's going to be absolutely usable after the patch.
But if I have like great rolls on all my stuff, is that going to kind of...
Yeah, it's going to be good rolls on your new stuff.
All right. So it's not just like, shot
It's
in the
not
dark,
just
random
complete
everything.
shuffle, no.
Okay.
No.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
And if there are talents that are staying, right? I know you're like doing a lot of work on talents.
Yeah, so since they've moved in position, a lot of them, to chest and backpack, some of them, you won't see them where they used to be anymore.
Okay.
But mostly if you have a chest or backpack that has a talent that's still around, we're going to try to make sure that it's still around.
Okay.
We're still working on it, but we're going to make an absolute best effort
Okay.
to convert gear and respect everybody's time that they put in.
Yeah.
All right. Does the recal system that we're going to be talking about next week
Factors in.
factors in? Or
To
It's a
some
big
degree.
picture.
To some degree.
The one thing I will say, because I saw the question, is that because there's no budget system anymore, you can't make a mistake when recalling.
That's
Because
right.
anything you want to change on these
Yeah.
pieces of gear is fine. Like if you want to swap out the talent, that doesn't mean you're missing out on some stat increase because it doesn't work like it used to anymore. So if something's not exactly right for you, you
Yeah.
can change that one thing on it and it won't be a misplay. So
Yeah.
There was a question before about if you get a gold roll gear, but the talent is for
Yeah.
a group.
then
Yeah.
You can
swap
roll
out
off
the
that
talent.
for-
Recal it.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Damage to elites, is that still a thing?
You want to do
The
that?
DTE, that's all you, man.
Oh, I actually don't know this.
DT
I'm,
is completely gone.
Rip.
I
And
was
the
not.
and with that bombshell, it's time to end the show.
I legit did not know that. Okay.
The thing is, you can build really high damage output, and we want you to have high damage output, but we want you to have high damage output to everything. We don't want you to end up in the situation where you kill a yellow guy
Yeah.
and a half a second, and then red bars take 2 seconds
Yeah.
because you're so specialized.
So damage should be damage.
Damage is damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
That makes sense. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of an argument for
But
it.
if you have DTE, that gets converted to some other good damage stat in the
Yeah,
process.
that's right.
So
Okay.
your gear is still gear, right?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I mean, because if you get DTE on stuff and you're doing a lot of content that doesn't have elites, it's like,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Yeah, chat's reaction. I'm saying, some people say good change. I mean, a lot of these things I understand that it's such big news, and without getting your hands on it and that sort
And there
of
will be
thing.
more context going forward, but
That's
I want to
right.
reiterate the context we dropped at the beginning, which is this will come at a time when there's new items to get, new things to play, and a new power cap, so there's a reason to get new gear.
That's right.
Blocky's already positing damage to armor. Is that a thing?
I mean, damage to armor is such a thing on shotguns.
On shotguns. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not coming anywhere else?
No.
Yeah.
All right,
I
good
mean,
to know.
because shotguns, right? You don't want to go in a high risk situation with an elite and like hit them and them not die, right?
Yeah.
It's not good for anyone.
Cool. I know a lot of people are asking about, like, when is this coming? So I just want to reiterate.
Yeah.
Now, currently we can tell you that this is not coming for episode 3, and episode 3 is coming in February. That's all we have in the way of date information right now. All of these changes that we're talking about today will come in an update after episode 3.
And we're actually really happy to be able to start talking to everybody about this early. Like
Yeah.
to just really give visibility on what we're doing
That's right.
as soon as we can, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
I get the eagerness. Like,
Sure.
I'm eager too.
Yeah.
But I'd rather talk about the information, even if we don't have dates, because
Yeah.
then it's great for
Yeah.
us to be able to get feedback on them and
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So
And we kind of talked about that late last year, right? About that we really wanted to try to be more kind of transparent and kind of push information sooner.
I'm all for it.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys are on board with that too.
Great.
Do we do more questions or do we leave people?
We'll take a few more, but we've got to head off in a sec.
So armor percent as an attribute is gone. It still exists on some brands as a brand bonus, but you can't roll it as one of the attributes.
Okay. Recap the key info, Hamish. I'll let you, since this is your baby, give us the.
How do you recap something this large in like a punchy way? So rebooting gear, gear 2.0 essentially. We want a more intuitive way to see what is good, what is bad, and what you can build. We still want depth and some complexity in making builds. We want you to be able to see your god rolls. We want you to be able to be comfortable with recalibration. We want to make sure that there's good group roles and good build niches, so you're not a jack of all trades. And it's all coming in a package after TU7 with new items and new ways to play and a new power cap. Something like that.
I like that. New
Cool.
weapons.
Let's talk about that another time.
Try it.
But I'm sure there'll be
Trident.
lots of YouTubers out there
Good try.
that'll do summaries of this. Hopefully, please, guys. And we'll have more info and take more questions next week as well.
Yeah. And again, I do want to say next week,
Yeah.
we've got recalibration stat storing, skill power refactorization, the other two big pieces
Of this puzzle.
of this puzzle.
Yeah, because it is a big package, and even those things aren't all of the things to talk about. There's a
Yeah.
lot. There's a lot coming. All right, I think. There's a couple of other. Okay, just get to these other couple of things. Someone's asked, instead of a 150% damage to elites build, now will I have a 150% base damage increase? Is it that binary, or is it?
No, but if, let's say, 150% DTE is a good roll, then whatever that gets converted to will be a good roll.
Okay, great.
But I mean, obviously, different stats need different max amounts, so it can't be that binary.
All right, optimization. That was the question.
Not in the cards right now.
All right, cool. All right, we will have a lot to talk about next week. We've left the agent highlights to the end of the stream. I just want to go through those because we also love that people still keep making awesome stuff. It's been a lot of information today, so let's take a little breather and have a look at the agent highlights for this week. Cool, what do we got coming up first? So, Umbra.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I saw this on Twitter.
That is
really good.
It is
That's
amazing.
sick.
I wonder if they're going to actually put something in that makes it have green smoke coming out of the canister.
Like those little things you'd get at Geforce. I mean, bonfire night that other people.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like those little smoke.
Yeah,
That'd
exactly.
be cool.
Little-
But it already looks rad.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Nice. All right. What else do we have today? Oh, that is cool. Karamzi over on Twitter. That's dope. Dope painting skills.
Yeah.
I want to learn. I want to learn how to do that.
It's kind of the thing one always wanted to do, like
I know.
become good at painting.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Go and throw a follow over on Twitter if you get a moment. That's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Do we have? That's the last agent highlight for today. I do want to take a moment though.
Yeah. Sad face.
Sad face. It's really, really important that we give a heartfelt goodbye to Amper Camper. He's not dead. He's just leaving. He's leaving Ubisoft. Whoa, I made it
He's
sound
probably
way too
going to do
serious.
something really fun, so it's not sad for him, but it is sad for us.
No, but Anthony, you've been. You're the real deal, man. It's sad to see you go, and we wish you so much luck in everything that you do next. So don't be a stranger.
No.
Seriously, we want you to keep coming back. And everyone in chat at Amper Camper, it's his last day at work, and I don't know how to live anymore. Feels bad. Did you have a chance to meet Anthony when you've been over?
I met Anthony.
Yeah, and he's been over here. Doesn't like Swedish food, so. I mean, I guess that's one thing you won't miss.
Yeah. It's great.
Swedish food?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this guy doesn't like it.
Amazing.
There you go. No, but we'll miss you, man. Seriously, keep coming back and we'll sneak you on a stream sometime. Somehow. Not get in trouble. Okay, that's going to be all for today, but we're going to be back next week, like we said before. Recal, stat storing, skill power refactorization. What does it mean? We'll tell you
And
next week.
Yannick will be back.
Yep.
Yes.
Cool.
With Frederick.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you're not here next week.
Yeah, I'm not here.
Okay.
I'm somewhere else.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're gonna up the gear. We're gonna up the beard game next week.
Yes. All right. So still lots to talk about. Make sure you tune back in next week. It'll probably be another long one, I think. But lots to learn. Anyway, thank you so much for coming by today.
Cool.
We'll see you all again next week for more state of the game informations and all of that. All right.
See you
Catch you
then.
later.
All right.
Bye,
See ya.
everyone.